on this edition of Sightings. Did this UFO enter protected airspace and in doing so compromise a top-secret facility in Ohio?
It houses the facility that we call Ohio's Area 51.
Diane Morrissey believes she died and came back. Now she says you can be taught to do the same thing.
Nothing could ever be as good as being dead.
A sightings investigation reveals that one of Chicago's most popular night spots is also one of its most haunted.
The darker aspects of the club scene definitely hang out here due to the energy that's in this room.
A mysterious power has drawn this photographer to ancient sacred sites.
They really seem to be meant to be seen from above. These were made for the gods to see.
And how will the discovery of ice on the moon further our exploration of space?
Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. A lot of interesting videotapes are delivered here to the Sightings offices. Most record brief, distant encounters with unidentified objects. But a few, like the tape that you're about to see, are in a class by themselves. They're clear, close-up, and unexplained. And when we examined the area where the tape was shot, Sightings discovered a top-secret world in a very unlikely place. A freak snowstorm is about as big as the news gets in quiet Chillicothe, Ohio. But in 1996, Terry Howard shot home video of a UFO that is still making news around the world.
On the night of October 16th, I went to take the trash out behind the house, and I glanced up at the sky. I saw 4 bright objects that looked like stars. They lit up really bright into like a bright yellow light, kind of like a flare, and they moved together into one solid bright yellow object, and then they separated back into kind of a line.
Terry Howard was not the only one to have a sighting that night. Chillicothe Sheriff Ron Nichols received notice that the switchboard was lighting up with calls about the same UFO.
On the evening of October the 16th, we had received a complaint from a citizen that lived in the southern portion of Ross County that they had seen or witnessed some lights that were in formations in the sky. They didn't have any idea what they were.
Animals in the neighborhood, as far as I could hear, was barking and howling, and they didn't stop until it had gone away.
We received several calls that evening of lights in the sky. Again, we still have no idea what they were.
I finally thought, hey, maybe I should get the camera on this. So I went in and I got our video camera and came back out, and that's when I was lucky enough to catch just the ending of them separating on tape.
This compelling videotape is the result. Response to it was immediate and overwhelming as local news and UFO investigators like William Jones rushed to investigate the scene and analyze the video.
I think it's definitely an anomalous phenomenon of some kind. When you first look at the tape, you think it might be flares. But when you find out from Terry that those objects, when he first saw them, were coming together, and then on the tape, when you see them spreading apart, those obviously cannot be flares.
Jones is the Ohio director of MUFON, the world's largest UFO investigation group. MUFON's video and film expert is Jeff Sainio, and he has analyzed the Howard tape.
Witness stated that what we saw here, the lights coming in and out, happened 4 or 5 times before he raced off to get his camera. An action like this is obviously not the result of some conventional object. And if it were any kind of conventional object, it'd be moving in some even, consistent path across the sky. But what we're seeing here, this thing in just a few seconds moving upward and then downward again, clearly a motion wouldn't be seen by a conventional object. The conclusion I'd make here is that you have a short but intriguing video of an object that appears to be rotating and moving around in the sky for a brief 15 seconds or so before disappearing. So that fits in well with many sightings that have occurred in other areas.
But Sanyo could say only what it is not. No one knows where the UFO came from or why it came here.
There have been more than an average number of UFO sightings come out of southern Ohio, it seems to me. You have a low population density down here. You would think it would be just the opposite. You'd think that where more people are living, there's a better chance of seeing UFOs. But for some reason, a large number of reports do seem to come out of this area.
Chillicothe may be a long car ride away from any big city, but by air, it's only minutes from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where many ufologists believe secret weapons based on recovered alien technology are being built and flown. But others feel the real answer is even closer to home.
The triangulated convergence point of all the reported phenomena from October 16th was determined to have been in the skies above Adams County, which houses the Peach Mountain Complex.
Kenny Young is a member of TASC, Tri-State Advocates for Scientific Knowledge. He thinks the UFOs may be coming from a remote General Electric testing facility south of Chillicothe.
Adams County is the most remote and desolate part of Ohio. It also houses the facility that we call Ohio's Area 51, which is the GE facility located within the Peach Mountain Range. It's very desolate, very remote. Very few people are there from which to see something that would be tested.
The Peoples facility claims that all GE jet engines are tested on the ground, never in the air or attached to secret aircraft.
I did make some inquiries with the public relations director of GE regarding the October 16th sightings. And I did receive a response from them in which they flatly denied that there was any activity that they would have been involved with.
The terse response from GE's media relations manager states, quote, "The alleged aerial phenomenon of October 16th did not result from activity remotely connected to the GE Peoples facility. But I should note that certain airspace above the Peoples site is utilized by Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And in the past, USAF aircraft maneuvers have been performed in airspace near and above the Peoples facility."
In addition to inquiries placed with GE, I also took the step of requesting information from Wright-Pat by fax, in which they have mysteriously lost.
Young admits his biggest enemy right now is red tape.
GE does not deny that there is a facility there. It's just immersed in secrecy to the point where nobody really knows exactly what is being tested.
Is this a secret military project, a re-engineered flying saucer? Or is Chillicothe's proximity to Wright-Pat and GE a red herring, throwing ufologists off the extraterrestrial track?
I think the tape that Terry took is important. It focuses for the public on the fact that we're seeing something in the skies that we can't explain. This has been going on for at least 50 years, at least since the mid-1940s. I think it's time that the government comes straight on what it knows.
If they do have new equipment, testing it out, I think it would be the sensitivity of it to keep it confidential and quiet would be to the security of our country. It would be of most importance.
I don't know what I saw, to be honest, that night. I know it wasn't an airplane or a helicopter, and it wasn't fireworks, and it wasn't flares. So I'm not sure what it was.
If there is an extraterrestrial component to all of the UFO sightings that have been made over the years, then it's time for us as a species to grow up and realize we're living in a galactic neighborhood, perhaps, that we're going to have to join.
Terry Howard tells us that since he shot his historic video, he has become something of a local celebrity, fielding offers from a number of different programs. And Terry says he's no longer ambivalent about the reality of UFOs. They are out there, Terry reports, and hopefully he will catch one again.
Next.
I saw from the moment I came out of my mother's womb until I died.
She died and loved it. Now she says anyone can see the light.
The biggest paranormal story of the decade may well be the near-death experience. Virtually unknown until a few survivors began to come forward. Today, NDE is in the New Age mainstream. And now, a researcher in Los Angeles is pioneering a technique which she claims will allow just about anybody, even people in perfect health, to experience the bright light and spiritual revelations of an NDE, and all from the comfort of their own home. It was a day long ago that Diane Morrissey says she will never forget. It was the day she died.
I was getting ready to have a party, and I wanted my house to look really nice, so I cleaned the fish tank.
As she grabbed the pump inside the tank, there was a buzz, a snap, and then something horrible happened. Electrified water gushed out of a pump hose and sprayed Diane.
It kind of felt like when you lick an envelope and you get a cut on your mouth or your tongue.
The force of the electric shock was so intense, Diane was knocked unconscious.
Suddenly, I knew I was outside of myself, and I couldn't understand how that could possibly happen. I didn't know at that instant that I had been electrocuted.
Her body lay lifeless on the floor, but Diane says it didn't matter because she was not in her body.
I thought it peculiar that when I looked at my hand, I was transparent. The clothing was transparent. It glowed about 3 feet around my entire body.
Diane believes that she remained unconscious for more than 25 minutes. Then, as she felt herself begin to separate from this life, Diane claimed she was visited by a strangely familiar form.
I was pulled through the tunnel at the beginning of my den windows. And when I went through the tunnel, it was this huge black vastness. And I knew I was in a place that wasn't the physical dimension, and yet I could feel somebody here waiting for me. I finally saw this woman about 100 yards away, and she was glowing like I was. She was extremely loving.
Diane says she was afraid as she walked into the void, but suddenly her fear melted away to nothing.
I saw from the moment I came out of my mother's womb until I died.
After the life review, Diane was reassured of her unique and permanent place in the cosmos.
It just was the most unforgettable experience. It was like feeling every angel, every spirit, every being in the whole universe and all galaxies saying, wow, you know, you have a purpose.
But Diane did not complete her journey to the other side. She came back to this life, completely transformed by the experience.
Before I died, I would have never thought that I was wrong about anything. And after I died, I look at everything I say and I realize anybody could be wrong about everything.
Before the experience, Diane did not draw people to her. She didn't really have any interest in, I think, drawing people to her. She didn't need that.
Pat Key is Diane's younger sister. They were always close, but Diane's story of her near-death experience was hard for Pat to accept and nearly tore the sisters apart.
I mean, this is somebody that we had knockdown, drag-out fights, she and I. We knew each other inside and out. There was nothing unusual about her. There was nothing extraordinary. And I didn't accept that anything had changed or that something could have changed her.
It wasn't until years later that Pat began to accept Diane's story as truth. The sisters were on vacation, and Diane cured Pat of a crippling headache.
That was a turning point internally for me to say, maybe there's something there that I don't understand, but it's real. And the person that I had grown up with would never have known where my headache was. And I don't think necessarily would have cared.
Now, the person whom Diane has become not only cares for her sister, but for many others. A new life's work has begun, and she's sharing her story and her book, Anyone Can See the Light, with millions. She also leads workshops that help people cope with death by teaching them how to have their own out-of-body experience. Carol Haidt attended only 3 of Diane's workshops before she was able to achieve her first OBE.
I was lying in bed one morning. All of a sudden I was thinking, oh, I've got to get up. So I walked to the kitchen, and this was so absolutely real. I felt myself going to the kitchen, and I reached for the light switch, and my hand literally went through the light switch, through the wall. And I was thinking, well, could this be? You know, we had talked about it in class. All of a sudden I was thinking, and I was in the shower stall. And I, again, was trying to touch the tiles, and again, my hand went through. And the most incredible message came through, and I won't say it was spoken because I don't know that, but I heard it in my head. And the message was, life is lux.
Carol was confused by the message until she learned that lux means light. For her, this was a profound moment of enlightenment.
Somewhere between 10 and 25% of the population, if you poll them, will report having had an out-of-body experience at some time during their life. Some out-of-body experiences start to take on transcendental, mystical elements.
Dr. Green has been studying the phenomenon for more than 15 years.
If people are in fact having out-of-body experiences as they report, it means that human consciousness is not just a byproduct of brain functioning, but that it can function independent of the body and the brain. And if that is so, we're going to have to rethink some of our most cherished ideas about what it is to be a human being.
That's just what Diane says she's working toward, to teach people that her NDE and their own out-of-body experiences are a gift, a spiritual preview of coming attractions. And Diane states with assurance, just wait until you get to the feature presentation.
I've said, and I mean it, that if you lived 1 billion years in anybody's body, nothing could ever be as good as being dead.
Most neurologists and brain researchers insist that an NDE is not a mysterious peek into the next life, but an explainable response to certain stimuli. There is, however, one area in which both sides do agree. Tales of near-death experience are beneficial, helping many people cope with the eternal questions and fear of death.
Next, downloading our souls in cyberspace. Life on Jupiter's moon. And later, the ghosts of Chicago's greatest disaster.
Now, here are some of the stories Sightings is following in the news. Innovation researchers at British Telecom headquarters report a startling theory. The possibility that a new device may soon put all of us on the road to immortality.
In Ipswich, England, the Research and Development Department at British Telecom has whipped up a maelstrom of controversy. Recently, they announced that a microchip, small enough to be placed undetected behind the human eye, is not only theoretically possible, it is also likely to happen soon. The microchip has been dubbed the Soul Catcher because it is the software and you are the hardware. Whatever memories you record could be transferred into a computer's memory so that your thoughts can live on longer than you do.
I think it would just take the form of a record of what your mind was doing at that time, what impulses were coming into your mind, what you were seeing through your eyes and hearing through your ears and so on, maybe even what you were feeling, all the different impulses into your brain.
When Ian Pearson and the other futurists at BT Labs speculated that the Soul Catcher could be ready in less than 30 years, public reaction was swift.
I'm amazed that they're doing it in the first place. This is real serious sort of blue sky R&D, as far as I could see. I would hope that they would all give some thought to the potential misuse of this technology.
William Gibson is one writer whose prescience about computer technology has been uncanny. In his first book, Neuromancer, he coined the term cyberspace. And in his screenplay for the movie Johnny Mnemonic, Gibson wrote of a man who implants computer chips directly into his own brain.
If you could implant someone with one of these devices against their will, as a punishment or as a surveillance device, you know, there goes privacy.
Gibson is not alone in his pessimism. The futurist at BT also realized that the Soul Catcher will have almost unlimited potential for abuse.
I think it's all the more important that we get discussion on these things as early as possible. You know, and now we're just beginning to become aware of these potential technologies. We have to start discussing the potential implications of those now, because it takes a long time for society to adjust to new ideas.
On an upcoming edition of Sightings, we'll bring you more with Gibson, Pearson, and other futurists who have contemplated the horrors and benefits of the soul catcher. And we'll show you their visions of the future. In Pasadena, California, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory is analyzing brand new images from Europa, Jupiter's largest and closest moon. And they found an hospitable environment where some kind of alien life form may exist right now.
Jupiter has an amazing moon called Europa. What's amazing about it is that it probably has a liquid ocean inside of it. This is very unusual because the temperatures in the outer solar system are so cold that ice normally is what you get with water. You don't get liquid water.
Galileo was just 430 miles away when it sent back this picture of Europa. It is the first time Earthlings have seen ice flows anywhere in the outer solar system. The flows indicate that there may be warm water below the icy crust. Images of Io, the next nearest Jovian moon, show volcanoes. So there is speculation by McDonough and others that weird creatures are thriving near underwater volcanic vents, just as they do on Earth.
If you look at Europa, you see the features on the surface are different from those of the other similar moons of Jupiter. You find with the Galileo pictures now that we have of areas of Europa that look a lot like the ice flows in the Arctic regions of the Earth. There could be something like continents drifting on the Earth on Europa, only these would be continents of ice floating like giant icebergs on a liquid ocean.
McDonough goes further, hypothesizing that the icy areas of Europa are not necessarily solid. There could be breaks where other kinds of animals rising to the surface could be photographed.
There are interesting places on the Earth that remind us of Europa. There is the bottom of the Arctic and the Antarctic. We find, for example, that when we go under the ice in the Arctic regions, there is an abundance of life there, which was once thought to be unlikely because light doesn't get through very well, and because it's so cold, it was thought that life would not exist in the Arctic regions. But we find there's lots of life there. All of this makes us think that there's a possibility that you could have life living inside of Europa today.
We'll have more stories in the news next time. Now, here's what's coming up as Sightings continues.
A Sightings investigation captures an anomalous presence on film.
This photograph I did not take. I heard the camera click.
Is it the spirit of Chicago's most deadly disaster?
Not too long ago, Sightings contacted the Excalibur Club in Chicago to confirm some stories that we'd heard about ghosts roaming around that popular night spot. We found out that not only are the stories true, they're only the tip of the paranormal iceberg at the Excalibur. When our investigative team arrived on the site, they learned that the place was soaked with the blood of Chicago's two greatest disasters. And when they began snapping pictures, something strange happened.
Psychic investigators on site believe this photograph is evidence of paranormal activity.
There are two clear presences on that photograph. Detectable energetic presences, which means that something strange happened.
The activity is happening inside this historic building, now called the Excalibur Nightclub in downtown Chicago. The club's dome room seems to be the focus of intense and persistent haunting, an eerie energy that seems to attract a certain kind of customer.
It's a very underground club. A lot of the people that hang out in the club, they're into the occult, the darker aspects of the club scene definitely hang out here. And I'm sure a lot of that is due to the energy that's in this room.
But it is the club's employees who seem to bear the brunt of the haunting in the dome room. Tom Neubauer is the club's creative director. Many shaken employees have confided in him about their ghostly encounters after closing time.
At the end of the night, after everybody's left and we're closing up the club, There's candles, you know, lit, set throughout the club. The waitresses or the bartender, whoever's breaking down the room, they'll go throughout the room, blow all the candles out, and they've walked in 5-10 minutes after they've blown all this stuff out, and the candles will all be relit, and we're talking like 30, 40, 50 candles.
I became a believer when I first saw the candles. The first time, and then the second time, and then the third time, and then I thought maybe somebody's playing tricks. But when I locked down the room myself, and I have the key, I truly believe there's something going on here. What it is, I don't know.
What we do before the club opens at night is just kind of run upstairs and do a bathroom check. And I ran up there and I ran in there and I actually thought, I was like, haha, I'm all alone, maybe I'll see a ghost. And went to wash my hands and I had heard crying, and at first I was like, what is that? And I stopped for a moment and it was just this really small voice just crying. I was just, get out of here as fast as possible.
I saw something right behind this bar. I walked in to shut the lights off, and next thing I see is a white tuxedo feature with reddish hair glowing behind the bar. I looked one more time to make sure, and it was gone. There was nothing there.
I had one experience. I smelled the most horrible stench of just death, rotting flesh that I've ever experienced in my life. It was almost made me pass out. It was so intense. There's no other place in the entire room that you could smell it, just in this one little spot. And we looked around. There's no explanation whatsoever.
A possible explanation for that foul stench was revealed when a sightings investigative team began to research Chicago's tragic past and its connection to this landmark. In the 19th century, this was the site of the Chicago Historical Society. It burned down during the famous Chicago fire of 1871.
There's one account by the librarian of the Chicago Historical Society who claims that as he was trying to save items from this building, the building was here in 1871 when it was burning, and had to jump for his life, that there were some women who had come inside the building to escape the fire. There's a possibility that those women perished in this building.
Although not as famous as the Chicago fire, a pleasure boat disaster in 1915 claimed nearly 10 times as many lives.
The Eastland disaster occurred on July 24th, 1915, when the Eastland, which was an excursion boat, capsized in the Chicago River, and 2,500 people on board, about between 800 and 900 people died, and there were women, children, and it had a terrible impact on people in the city. It was a tragedy. Nothing like that had ever happened. There's also been some speculation that after the Eastland disaster in 1915, that this building we're in now was one of the temporary morgues that had been set up for the victims.
Because the building was intimately connected to the two most deadly disasters in Chicago history, Sightings asked two renowned investigators to evaluate the site. Jorianne Defray, working psychically, and Peter Moscow, hunting for scientific evidence. They were not told the building had been a morgue, but Jorianne senses it right away.
In this area, my chest is actually feeling pretty heavy, and I had heard a sense of watching out for the bodies before. Would this at one time have been a place where there would have been bodies or something?
Well, when they had the big naval disaster in the Chicago River, the Eastman,
yeah,
the cruise ship capsized, and there were hundreds of people that died. This room was used as a temporary morgue.
Oh, this room was? Oh,
yeah.
Great, okay. I just heard something like, stop and watch me, stop and watch me. Okay, and that's actually up in this area. Somebody like wanting to be watched. I don't know if it was along the catwalk. And I had picked up the sense of like a child. One of the very significant presence that I felt here was a little child running around. And it appeared as though this child was running around looking for its mommy, wanting to find its mother.
Jorianne may have sensed one of the Eastland's tiniest victims, a child who was never claimed because his entire family died in the disaster.
Okay, right here, getting a sense that somebody's behind that bar. And almost like, I don't know, doing some kind of serving or something else to somebody else that's out here. And it kind of feels like they are not alive.
One of the managers had an experience where he saw a bartender in a white tuxedo.
Good deal.
With reddish colored hair.
You got it, Peter? Got something?
It flashed just as I turned around here, right into this area.
Oh, good deal.
As I turned around, it went from about a 4.5 to 5 all the way up to the 15 on the dial there. So right in this area here, I believe you're going to find who you're looking for.
Yeah.
There was a tremendous burst of energy.
It was in this same bar area that Peter's camera went off by itself. Our cameras didn't catch the event, but here is the end result.
This photograph I took of the bar after we'd picked up the information about the barman standing there behind the bar. This photograph I did not take. I heard the camera click. Clearly there are some abnormally strange streaks of light in this, which I cannot account for. I think it's the barman that triggered this abnormal photography.
I thought it was fantastic that the camera had gone off by itself and that we had actually picked up energy on the photograph.
Anything that happens with a camera doesn't prove the point 100%. But I think that it is spiritual evidence of what we're looking for.
When Jorianne and Peter completed their evaluation, it was clear to them that the haunting is being caused by spirits from Chicago's painful past. This has given the employees a poignant new outlook. Finally, they can put names and faces to the spirits here.
Peter Moscow and Jorianne Dufresne were brought in only to help identify the source of the haunting. Having done so, it's now up to the people who work in the building to decide whether they should ask a psychic investigator to perform a cleansing or instead to respect the spirits and their otherworldly claim to that property.
Next, Egypt's antiquities as you've never seen them before.
What's interesting for me is how these were made for the gods to see.
The first time Sightings introduced you to photographer Marilyn Bridges, she was in the midst of an ambitious project. She was taking aerial photographs of sacred and mysterious places like the giant pictographs in Peru known as the Nazca Lines. Well, for Bridges and many who have seen her photos, the project was an artistic and spiritual revelation. Now we find Bridges in the air again. Destination, Egypt.
The Great Pyramid and Sphinx of Giza tantalizes with dreams about what Egypt must have been like more than 4,000 years ago. These ancient monuments are heralded as marvels of design and engineering. But it is their awesome grandeur and overpowering sense of mystery that draw people from every corner of the globe. Like the sirens of old, once Egypt calls, you must follow.
I always wanted to go to Egypt. Somehow I've been naturally drawn to the areas of photographing ancient sites. I mean, it's almost been a calling.
Marilyn Bridges has taken aerial photographs of ancient sites for most of her professional career. From the air, she has captured the Nazca Lines of Peru, the power of Stonehenge, the isolated temples of the Maya and Inca civilizations.
I'm attracted to these monuments because of the mystery behind them, the mystery as to why the scale was so large. They really seem to be meant to be seen from above. And that's why I felt that it was so important to photograph them from the air.
But getting permission to photograph the world's most celebrated antiquities in Egypt was a political chess game Bridges almost lost.
It's illegal. The military is extremely paranoid of having their sites photographed. And all along the Nile, along with the pyramids and temples, are military installations. So it's really a no-go area for photography.
Marilyn Bridges persisted and eventually prevailed. The results can be found in her new book, Egypt, Antiquities from Above. It's a point of view that has the power to transcend space and time.
The pyramids are magical, they're spiritual. I almost feel godlike when I'm flying above these monuments. And what's interesting for me is how these were made for the gods to see. So I feel extremely fortunate to be at that perspective.
Her perspective and passion have convinced Bridges that as far as these sites are concerned, there are no accidents, and that the people who created the monuments here were tuned into a powerful earth energy that we have since paved over.
When I'm up in the sky, I can see the placement of the monuments within the landscape, and I think it was extremely important to ancient man that these were put in certain areas according to different energy pathways that might have been discovered. Ancient man was in touch with knowledge that we don't have any longer. We think with time that we progress, but I wonder how much we really have progressed.
But in every place that Marilyn Bridges photographed, her spiritual revelations were tempered by the irreparable damage she saw, turning the antiquities to dust.
I feel kind of sad to see that many of the sites are in jeopardy of being destroyed. You can see, for instance, in one of the photographs in the book of the 3 pyramids, you can see Cairo coming right up to the edge of the plateau. These gigantic colossi of Memnon were used to guard a gateway to a huge mortuary that's no longer there. And so they look kind of lonely in the landscape. So I think it's important through the vehicle of photography to help preserve what is seen and what's there now for future study, and also to make people more aware of what we have so that we might take care of it.
Bridges hopes her pictures will inspire new restoration and new discoveries. After all, it was aerial photography from the space shuttle Atlantis that found Ubar, a city lost for thousands of years. And from her tiny plane, Marilyn Bridges sees hints of greatness waiting to be found.
It was wonderful flying over the desert in Egypt because I could see the potential for many, many pyramids to appear and many temples because the sand had covered them. You could see areas in the desert that were raised and had contour, and you knew that underneath was just something waiting to be seen again.
On her next project, Marilyn Bridges will be working with a partner. While Marilyn's taking pictures from above, her husband, photographer Don McCullen's going to be working from the ground. And it is something of a departure for Don, who's world famous as a photojournalist and combat photographer. But this is one that he says he can't pass up, to capture the mystery and spirituality of India.
Next, the discovery of ice on the moon and what it means.
And if you have a discovery that seems a little strange, it makes you rethink your fundamental assumptions.
The last time photographs of the lunar surface were taken was during Russia's Lunar 24 mission. That was in 1976. After that, maps were drawn, and, well, we thought we'd seen everything there was to see on the moon. Then, nearly 20 years later, the U.S. launched a ballistic missile defense spacecraft that casually snapped a few pictures on its way to a top-secret mission. And those pictures show us something impossible.
Earth's stark, lifeless moon has kept her secrets well, until now.
Recently, the Department of Defense announced the, I think, rather exciting discovery of finding possible ice in the south polar region of the moon.
An ice formation the size of 4 football fields was found almost as an afterthought by Clementine, a military spacecraft testing Star Wars technology. Clementine detected ice where the sun doesn't reach, at the lunar south pole. Astronomer Ronald Angioni has been studying the new discovery.
Water, which is hydrogen, oxygen, H2O, is made up of the most common stuff there is around, so we expect to find water a lot of places.
Scientists believe that a comet loaded with ice created a massive polar crater deeper than Mount Everest is tall. And some of that ancient ice still remains deep inside the moon.
If you compare the moon to the Earth, it is a desert. But if you compare the moon to space, which is completely empty, the moon is a treasure trove of materials and energy.
Dr. Paul Sputis of the Lunar and Planetary Institute in Houston believes that the discovery will fundamentally change all of science.
The discovery of ice on the moon is having quite a significant impact in that it's making people rethink what we really know about the various planets. Anytime you find a discovery on, say, the moon or Mars, these are both objects that we think we understand pretty well. And if you have a discovery that seems a little strange, it makes you rethink your fundamental assumptions.
It has already changed the thinking of the Department of Defense. DoD is planning a new mission devoted exclusively to the moon.
Next year, there's a probe that's going to be launched to the moon called Lunar Prospector. And Lunar Prospector, like Clementine, will be a polar orbiter. It'll orbit the moon for about a year, and it will carry an instrument that will directly detect the presence of hydrogen on the moon. Now, since water is basically H2O, 2 hydrogen atoms and an oxygen atom, the neutron spectrometer experiment should detect the presence of any ice that's near the South Pole.
If this new mission confirms that the frigid mass is frozen water, space exploration will never be the same.
There are two very important implications of the ice on the moon. One is more academic in a way, in that it may be very, very old, and studying that ice can give us clues maybe to how the solar system formed. The other is what it would mean for the future of space exploration. Having a source of water, and then by converting into its elements, hydrogen, oxygen to breathe, would really open the door to colonizing the moon bases, and the moon is a stepping stone to exploring all of space.
From a historical perspective, we are essentially on the edge of this great adventure.
As a planetary scientist for NASA, Dr. Mendel has reason to be excited. He and his colleagues believe that ice on the moon will accelerate and revolutionize the U.S. space program, and colonization may not be far behind.
It's always been my belief that human beings will diversify off of the Earth. What I don't know is exactly when and how it will occur. We who live in the space age have great dreams because we saw how much could be accomplished when the astronauts walked on the surface of the moon. We may find ourselves in a very different kind of environment where we will depend on a dramatic lowering of costs of launching rockets to where ordinary individuals can go into space and then be the frontiersmen on the surface of the moon rather than government astronauts being the explorers.
Finding water on the moon is a step in that direction. It's a step into cutting the cord with the Earth. If people are going to live in space, they have to learn to live off the land. So living off lunar water is the first step in that regard.
The moon may very well become home sweet home for a few space-age pioneers, but ultimately, it could be a safe haven for all of us.
I think that the human species may not be on this Earth forever. The dinosaurs lasted 150 million years. We are only 4 or 5 million years old. And so we have the ability to diversify, to find new places in which to establish life and to expand intelligence and understanding throughout the solar system. I think ultimately that will occur because it's in our genes.
Our ancestors watched the stars and the planets, and so there's been, before recorded history, a fascination with what is out there, I think is really the fundamental driving force for exploring it. And we are by nature as a species, I think, explorers. You always want to know, well, what's over the next hill is the popular phrase. And so the next hill in this case is the next planet or the next star.
Finding frozen water on the moon has fired the imagination of long-range planners in the space industry. The discovery means that the moon could become a kind of a rest stop and refueling station for future deep space travel.
If you've had a paranormal experience, please write to us at Sightings. Sightings can also be contacted at America Online at keyword sightings. Download images, sounds, and QuickTime clips from Sightings episodes. On the internet, access information about sightings and the paranormal at sci-fi.com/sightings.
Until next time, remember, no mystery is closed to an open mind. For Sightings, I'm Tim White.